Black Myth Wukong is tough. Not only does it require fast reflexes and quick decision making, there are also a lot of resources, crafting materials, secret areas, and skill trees to consider while fighting your way through the story. Here are 13 things Black Myth Wukong doesn't tell you that might make your journey to the west a little bit easier. Early on, you'll find these green floating flames. If you interact with them at the beginning of Wukong, they'll fly away and you'll only get a small amount of will. After receiving the Blessed Gourd upgrade from this dude that looks like Shujinko from Mortal Kombat, he's not very far into Chapter 1, you can absorb these flames fully for a much greater amount of will. You'll also be able to take certain powerful enemies' spirits, but we'll have more on that later. Absorbing wisps into your gourd will also restore as many healing uses as there are wisps, so make sure to top off on health before you absorb one if you are already maxed out on your drinks. Heavy attacks work very differently than in most action games, as their function differs depending on whether they're used in or outside of a combo, and also depending on what stance you're in. When used outside of a combo, they can be charged up to the number of focus points that you have unlocked, with each level of charge dramatically increasing the amount of damage the heavy attack will deal. When used in combos with the standard attack button, you'll perform a varied combo, assuming you've unlocked the specific varied combo from the skill tree in that stance. Varied combos require 1 point of focus, and unlike standalone heavy attacks, cannot be charged. That said, further upgrades can be purchased in the skill tree that can power them up and allow for follow-up attacks that use additional focus points. Note that the Smash stance heavy attack is the best for single target damage, and that you can run while charging it, but it has by far the worst range. The Pillar stance heavy attack is quite slow, but does big AoE damage and can knock enemies flying off ledges. And finally, the Thrust stance heavy attack does great single target damage from a long range, but like the Pillar stance heavy attack, it requires you to stand completely still while charging. To unlock the Pillar and Thrust stances, you'll need to be of a particular level, and you'll need to put at least 1 point into the respective trees. Depending on your build, there can be some major difficulty spikes in Wukong, especially on particular bosses. Make sure not to be overly precious about your skill tree. At Keeper's Shrines, you can respec all your skill points, or even refund them individually in each menu. Certain stances or heavy attacks really excel against different enemies, so it may behoove you to dump all your points into strengthening one aspect of your skills, or really investing in a particular spell. For instance, the Thrust stance, when you charge up enough focus, can straight up just stagger bosses, after which you can freeze them with your Immobilize spell to wail on them for a ton of damage. It's easy to be stubborn about your build, but a few of us started beating tough bosses in 1 or 2 tries after we decided to respec to suit that particular fight. Please learn from our mistakes. Quite a few bosses are skippable, and the Wandering Wight, the giant baby-looking Yaoguai in the beginning area, is one of them. But make sure to return and beat him after receiving the ability to absorb spirits from defeated enemies. Any spirit that you can absorb after defeating a tough enemy will give you a powerful ability on a cooldown, as well as a passive stat buff if you have it equipped. For instance, the Wandering Wight has a powerful headbutt that does major damage and can stagger enemies, and gives you a pretty hefty defensive buff. Depending on the chi cost and strength of the spirit, these abilities can take a long time to refill, so use them early in boss fights to give them a chance to recharge. You can also invest will and sometimes materials into these spirits to increase their active strength and passive bonuses at shrines. But unlike the sparks you spend to unlock abilities, these upgrades cannot be refunded, so augment them wisely. One other note, if you kill bosses that drop spirits before getting the upgraded gourd, you can then retrieve those spirits at a Keeper's Shrine once you've acquired the upgrade. Despite the evident linearity of Wukong, there are several off-the-beaten-path optional areas, and even some hidden bosses. It can be hard to tell where you're going, especially without a map, but one thing that helped us get our bearings was to take note of and remember what the particular Keeper's Shrines were called, as they'll give you a hint of where you are, and how the zones fit together. You'll probably be wandering around quite a bit, but your journal will keep track of all the mini-bosses, called Yaoguai Chiefs, and big bosses, called Yaoguai Kings, so you'll be able to tell if you missed one. If you just can't find one, or you're ready to move on, don't worry, you can fast travel to any shrine at any time from another shrine, even between chapters. Your main method of healing in Black Myth Wukong is through your gourd. which can be broken down into 3 parts: the gourd itself, the drink inside the gourd, and the soaks you add to your drinks. The gourds hold a particular amount of drinks and can have special effects such as healing any nearby duplicates of your character. Gourds are equipped through your equipment screen, but can only be upgraded by the Shin Monkey NPC you meet in Chapter 1, right after the Marsh of White Mist Keeper's Shrine. These upgrades will increase the maximum amount of drinks you can get between rests, and can improve the effects of that particular gourd. Drinks inside the gourd can be swapped out in the brew menu at any shrine, or the aforementioned NPC. Each drink heals differently. For instance, some refill a medium amount of health all at once, while others can refill a large amount of health over time. Drinks can be upgraded by Shin Monkey. Drinks also have a certain amount of slots to add soaks. Soaks are swapped out from the brew menu, so you must be at a shrine or at Shin Monkey. Soaks add special variations to your drinks, such as adding a small heal over time, or improving cooldowns on spells. There's quite a bit of variation once you collect a few gourds, drinks, and soaks, so be sure to check them often to ensure they suit your playstyle. After reaching Chapter 2 and defeating the lightning frog in the small pool of water at the far end of the canyon, you'll run into an NPC named Shoe Dog who will grant you the ability to make medicines. While you can only make consumable mortal medicines at first when you stop at shrines, once you reach the cellar, Keeper's Shrine, further into Chapter 2, you'll run into Shoe Dog again, and he'll grant the ability to craft celestial medicines. Celestial medicines give permanent boosts to different stats, such as health, mana, stamina, and even certain bane resistances. You consume mind cores to create these medicines, but can refund all of them at any time. You must return to Shoe Dog every time you want to either create celestial medicines or refund your mind cores. Make sure to check back with all the different NPC stores as you progress through the game, as they may have new stock. For instance, the Shin Monkey in Chapter 1 that upgrades your gourd and your drinks will have new gourds for purchase. You'll also be obtaining new soaks and drink upgrades, so this is a good time to get them all set. Look for the red dot next to vendor menu list items. Those tell you when there's a new item or option available. If you've moved on past a chapter, don't worry. You can always return to it by fast traveling at a Keeper's Shrine. Make sure to keep an eye on your health, stamina, and mana gauges in the bottom left of the screen during boss fights. Certain bosses will have attacks or curses that will have your maximum amount, leading to instant kill command grabs or an inability to dodge mid-fight. Recognizing when these attacks might happen can help you conserve drinks and stop unnecessary movements, so you can be ready to counterattack. It's hidden in the bottom left corner of your pause screen, but you can enter photo mode with a button that's listed there. But you don't have to go into the menu to enter photo mode every time. You can hold down the right trigger and press that same button listed in the menu to go straight into it during gameplay. Using an Xbox controller, it's the right trigger and the back button. You get a lot of currencies in this game, including many different types of crafting resources, so let's just go through the most important ones. Will is money. Unlike Souls games, you don't lose it upon death, and it can be used to purchase resources and medicines from shrines, upgrade your spirits, and upgrade your various types of equipment such as gourds and weapons, although some of these take supplemental materials as well. Sparks are experience. You place them in your skill tree to gain new abilities, passive bonuses, or spell upgrades. They can be refunded individually or all at once at any shrine under the Reignite the Sparks menu option under Self-Advance. You receive a relic at the end of each chapter, and you can choose one of 3 bonuses. You can also respec these from the Reignite the Sparks option in the Shrine's Self-Advance menu. Materials help you craft weapons, armor, and upgrade gourds. Special materials, such as Knots of Voidness and Blood of the Iron Bull, are spent to upgrade your spirit abilities past a certain point. Mind cores are technically a material, but allow you to create celestial medicines. Ingredients allow you to craft mortal medicines. And wine worms and fragrant vines allow you to upgrade drinks and gourds respectively. This list of currencies is by no means exhaustive, but these are the types you'll be using the most. There's an optional boss in the first area that gives you the spell to transform. It's easy to completely miss this guy, so just follow this path from the outside the forest Keeper's Shrine. Picking up his staff after the fight will unlock Red Tides, your first transformation, and the corresponding skill tree. You won't have to worry about this until after you finish Wukong, but be careful when starting a new game plus as it will overwrite your completed save. meaning any of the side quests or areas you wanted to explore won't be available until you reach that point in the game again. Just a word of warning. If that seems like a lot, don't worry. Black Myth Wukong is a big game. It's pretty complicated, and we're still learning about it too. Make sure to visit our ever-growing guide on IGN.com, and while you're here, check out our video on how to unlock the first secret boss. For everything else gaming, keep it right here on IGN.